I think that really turned out well, and we've got Jesse Ventura joining us for the next 50 minutes or so live from Baja, Mexico. Amazing Skype connection, despite the fact that he's down there, and he's got some amazing stories to tell. But his crew had the idea that periodically, every month or so, Jesse will tape 2 minutes. He did it in one take. I did mine in one take as well, exactly 2 minutes. And then we sandwich them together. And I think we pretty much agreed from different angles on that piece. Jesse was just saying during the break, he thinks it'll be a real debate when we talk about illegal immigration. In fact, we can probably not save that for that. We can debate that today here as well. But we're going to cover the waterfront with Jesse. You can find this piece. It airs over at aura.tv/offthegrid or twitter.com/govjventura. And Facebook /official Jesse Ventura. We have those all linked up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. And you can follow us, of course, at Real Alex Jones and on our different Facebook channels that are listed. What I know about Jesse Ventura, getting to know him over now, it's hard to believe, like 8, 9 years, is that he's the real deal. And even though we disagree on probably 30% of the issues, it doesn't matter because at least he's an honorable guy. He stands up for basic liberty. I'd call him a libertarian. He's an anti-establishment party guy. You've heard him here many times. And the system is attacking him and demonizing him and misrepresenting what he says and what he stands for more and more because they're scared of him. And that's why they did the fake thing where he got basically arrested by the police in California at the airport or whatever. Did never happen. Wasn't true. He was in Minnesota. Or the police had stopped him and it was a confrontation, made up. Or the whole American Sniper thing, which is now unraveling and, coming out that the movies basically has nothing to do with reality. Why would they try to put him in that book? And I'm sure if Ventura hadn't threatened to sue, probably in the movie. It's because the establishment is really going after him and anybody else that they know they don't control. Because Jesse Ventura, and then we're going to get to all the issues with him, but for new listeners, we have a lot of new affiliates. I know he's being demonized and attacked. Wouldn't go for the war when he had a top-rated show back when MSNBC had tens of millions of viewers. So for 3 years, he was gagged from speaking and played out his contract. And of course, Donahue had some of the top ratings in cable. And they fired him because he wouldn't go along with the war. So that's why I admire Jesse Ventura, is because he wouldn't sell out to the establishment. And he's a maverick just like Infowars is. And that's the spirit of what we try to do here. But overall, I don't think you'd seen that head-to-head piece yet. You just heard it, Jesse. What'd you think of it?
I think it worked very well, Alex. We both made our points. Like you said, we came at it from slightly different angles. But I think we both realize the importance of energy independence and that we have to achieve it. And what I've been pushing people very hard on is the fact that oil is old energy. Oil is old. We need to start looking new. We need to start looking beyond. I remember when I met with the scientist John Hutchinson, and he looked at me at the end of our meeting and he said something to me. He said, "Do you really believe that scientists like me since 1945 haven't discovered anything beyond the jet engine?" And I looked at him and said, "No, John, I would think in 50 years of time, you have discovered something better than the jet engine." I remember John smiled and said, "How long do you think it would take to go to New York to LA if you didn't have to deal with gravity?" And just smiled at me. And the point I'm making, Alex, is that we need to start looking to the future. Enough of this oil stuff. Oil is old news. It's energy new. Let's move into the new century with a new outlook on energy and start putting our resources towards finding it.
Let's get into energy first, because we know that, I remember in the 70s, Chevy had a carburetor that would get you 100 miles to the gallon. I know that the SR-71 Blackbird, in service in 1951, they still say is the fastest airplane in the world, when, as you said, the Germans invented jets, the Nazis did, in 1943. So for them to sit around and claim that what we're seeing is the latest, greatest, when the federal government admits that they are trying to block, quote, disruptive technologies, well, they mean disruptive to the grandsons and granddaughters of the robber barons that pretty much run a monopoly system worldwide.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, and I agree wholeheartedly, Alex. It's time, one thing about, when I did the 3 years of conspiracy theory, You know, it kind of labeled me and all that and by the mainstream media. But I'll tell you, I learned a lot of stuff and talked to a lot of very, very interesting people in doing the 3 seasons of conspiracy theory. And, you know, it really broadened my outlook on a lot of things, doing it and hearing things from a different point of view and hearing people that were not in the mainstream. So it was a great learning experience, and we were happy to have you on board for a few of those episodes. What did we used to refer to you again, from Starsky and Hutch? Who was the black character again?
Huggy Bear.
Huggy Bear, yeah. Remember we used to call you Huggy Bear.
Well, I really enjoyed doing the show as well, and it didn't matter it got top ratings. They actually censored some of the more hardcore episodes that dealt with continuity of government. Now they admit plans for civil unrest. Now, just in the last 3 years since that episode aired on the police state, they admit the surveillance grid. They admit the threat fusion centers are federalization spy centers. They admit that they're training for gun confiscation. They admit that they're set up an internet kill switch, a Wall Street Journal, from internet to ObamaNet. So do you feel vindicated, A, and then B, well, Jesse, why do you think so much is coming out now?
Alex, I kind of want people to refer to me now as the prophet.
Well, yeah, well, sure. I guess we've all been warning people.
I mean, I got to laugh because the very things. How about the redacted stuff on 9/11? I remember going through utter hell because I was questioning there had to be more to 9/11.
You went to Congress, you pointed out the Saudi connection, you talked to the experts. Absolutely, that 9/11 episode is incredible, and now it's all just out in the open.
Yeah, now it's in the open, and everything that we were saying back then is coming to be the truth. How about the places when they took me to Kansas and they took me to these old missile sites where they're building the underground condominiums? That hit mainstream a couple months ago, that indeed it's happening and it's this and that, and you can buy into them. I think for 1.3 million you can have a condominium, and we covered that in the show years ago. So I'm sitting back laughing, going, you know, conspiracy theory really was ahead of its time, wasn't it?
And that's a problem they have, Jesse. Again, Governor Jesse Ventura joins us. Looking at this whole situation, we see CNBC, MSNBC getting rid of a bunch of their crew. MSNBC, CNN's ratings are literally collapsed. It's non-existent. From their great days. Fox is slumping as well, but not comparatively. But mainstream media itself is in decline while alternative new media is exploding. What do you expect the establishment's move to be? Well, obviously they're going to try to censor the internet, and they've got experts in the news today saying this new FCC takeover of the web, to quote, protect it, will totally screw it up and bring censorship, Governor.
Well, and that's what we've got to fight against. The way they ought to do it is they should move their shows over to the internet and let those that want to see them see them. You know, ultimately, everything comes down to the public's choice. I remember when there used to be all the talk on censorship and what kids should see when I was governor and what they shouldn't see. And I remember always telling people, there's something called the on-off switch, and there's something called you can change the channel.
That's right.
And ultimately, that's what it comes down to, is personal responsibility and personal viewership. If mainstream media is not delivering what the public wants and needs, the public's going to look other places for it, and you would think they would adapt. So the adaptation has to come from them because, as you said, Alex, we're winning. We're gaining and we're winning. And so they've got to adapt to it. Now, if they do it the honest way, they'll get into our type of media and try to win people over. Or they'll do it the dishonest way, and that is paying off the politicians, legislating, and bringing the government into it to censor us. So I kind of vote they'll make the move to the second alternative, not the first one, although they should take the first option first.
Undoubtedly. I mean, it's now here, bipartisan, Republicans and Democrats working together from internet to ObamaNet, And we've got the former FCC chief saying he's shocked by Fed's attempts, the article's on screen, to regulate internet. The order goes far beyond protecting net neutrality. What a perfect cover, though. Say you're going to protect net neutrality that most of us support, keeping it open and free, but then actually using it to bring in SOPA and CISPA style controls.
See, Alex, you know how I saw through that? They have already got plenty antitrust laws on the books. All they have to do is apply laws that existed before the internet. Antitrust laws were here before the internet. All they don't need to pass any new controls. Just apply antitrust laws to the internet. Don't let one or two corporations take it over in a monopoly. It's no different than any other business out there.
Well, Jesse, that's what they always do.
Pass these new laws. They've got laws in place, Alex.
Well, you know that trick as a former mayor and then a governor of a major state, where they won't fill the potholes and then they'll demand more taxes to fix that when they just wasted a huge budget. It's the exact same thing. They say ISIS and Al-Qaeda are allowed to recruit on Facebook and Twitter, so pass laws to censor everybody's free speech. Well, I get censored on Facebook and Twitter for just peaceful speech. Your TV shows have been erased off TiVo and off Time Warner. You've been openly censored. I've been openly censored. They've censored Navy SEALs families questioning the official story of their deaths in the bin Laden raid. So they're already censoring stuff that shouldn't be censored. So these claims that we need new laws to stop ISIS recruiting, they're letting ISIS recruit. I want to segue into that. You were on a year ago, 2 years ago, every time you've been on. And you can go back to the internet if you want first. And you talked about how it's a false flag. They're funding ISIS. They're funding Al-Qaeda. This is all staged. It's going to be a wider war. Now, again, that's all official. We're being told brace for the malls to be attacked, a Mall of America where you're from up there in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And then Jay Johnson says, or give me more funding, I can keep you safe. How transparent does that have to get?
Well, the whole thing, I'll go back into history. Let's go back to the Iraq War and put blame where it belongs, which is what you never hear out of our country. One thing about the United States you can bank on and take it home. We will never admit to a mistake. We will never admit that we made the wrong move. And the wrong move I'm talking about was the original invasion of Iraq. Going back to that. Do you think for 1 minute ISIS would exist today if Saddam were alive? Do you think ISIS would exist if Gaddafi were alive?
No.
Those countries over there can only survive having a dictator, someone with a powerful position to keep the peace and keep everything in line. The United States invades the country, Gaddafi gets taken out, we take out Saddam. It throws the whole thing into unrest. It throws the whole thing up into the wind, which I have to believe, Alex, was their intention. They wanted to make the Middle East unstable.
By the way, Wesley Clark just came out. I don't know if you've seen this clip down in Mexico. It just came out 2 days ago. In fact, try to cue it up, guys, for later. He said that Western governments are behind a destabilization campaign, and he's basically seen the documents, just like he exposed the 7-country plan that they plan to invade.
Yeah, no, I can't believe that this isn't all part of a grand master plan to keep the place unstable so that we will be at perennial war.
That's right.
And the only way to keep us at perennial war is to bring the war home with these threats that ISIS is going to attack us in America. They're going to attack us in America, so therefore we need to fight them over there. To me, it goes back to Smedley Butler. War is a racket, and we're involved in the biggest racket of all right now, and that's these wars in the Middle East. We can solve them all. ISIS won't be a problem. Let's do what Ronald Reagan did. Let's do what Ronald Reagan did when the car bomb attacked the Marines in Lebanon and killed 100 brave Marines over there. Did Ronald Reagan go to war? No. Ronald Reagan got the hell out of there.
Yeah, let people kill each other. That's not our issue.
Well, today it's called cutting and running. Ronald Reagan, the pinnacle of the Republican Party, cut and ran. But I agree with Ronald Reagan. He made the right decision. Let's make the right decision and get the hell out of there. Let them decide for themselves who's going to govern who over there. It's so unstable now. It's a regional thing. and we got no business over there, Alex.
Well, the plan is destabilization, just like Ukraine. It's the same global chessboard. You know, you've read Brzezinski's book, Grand Chessboard. They admit this whole plan. That's what's so incredibly frustrating about that. But expanding on this, speaking of propaganda wars, you have spoken out, and I'd like you to elaborate on it. I don't know if you've seen American Sniper yet, but I know you've read the book. For those that don't know.
No.